Everybody, it's Tommy and welcome back to another video for the Disney Save. Today we are going to be doing a speed build for Wally's home. So Wally is the main character from the movie of the same given name, and he is a robot character. However, I knew I wanted to include him in the save file, and I've basically been planning to do this little area of Port Promise exclusively for Wally themed builds and a bunch of ideas that I had come up with from rewatching sections of the movie. And I was trying to come up with maybe what should I do for his home, but I wasn't entirely sure about exactly how to go about it. And then I got a fan request from one of my patrons. So my patrons on my highest tier are allowed to request something specific for the Disney Save. And the particular patron had requested that Wally live in his actual transport vehicle. So I thought that was obviously brilliant, and we would do our best to try and recreate it. So the next video is obviously going to be Wally's creative sim. Wally is going to live here by himself with his dog Hal, who is the cockroach that you might remember from the movie that we are going to be turning into a dog. And Eve will be a part of the save. She is just going to get her own separate home. And I think I really wanted to do that because I could so picture Eve's house to be very sleek, futuristic, and I really wanted to build her spaceship, or something that kind of resembles her spaceship. So they are very opposite in personality. I feel like Eve and Wally, they're just very opposite of one another as far as aesthetics, and a lot of things about them are very opposite. Even though they work great together, opposites attract, definitely, but they tend to be very differently depicted characters. And I thought it would be fun to maybe break up a couple and do it so that you can play them in a romantic sort of way. Whereas in the future, if we're going to do some of the iconic Disney princesses and stuff, they might already be moved out of their childhood homes and living in their castle with their significant other, and that might not necessarily be a romantic avenue that you can jump right into the save file and play with. But this is a couple that you could actually work towards making a couple yourself. They're going to start out separate, and you can choose to do whatever you like with them. So that means that Wally gets to live in his original transport vehicle, and that is super cool. It's obviously a little bit of an intimidating build just because of the shape and how crazy it looks. It's basically this broken down version of what once was a vehicle that used to transport Wally units to probably whatever area they were being designated to clean up. Wally has taken the interior of it and basically made it his own and filled it with all of the things that he loves. One of his big character traits is that when he is cleaning up and doing his Wally task, he tends to take things that he finds to be interesting and bring them back to his house and put them in bundles of collectibles. There's even a couple of rotating shelving units inside the Wally transport vehicle, and I think that those were probably originally for the Wally cubed robots to sit on in stacks that they could easily roll them out and rotate between them, and it was probably more of the process of what they were originally built for. But now Wally has taken this entire building and really made it more for him and cleared out the shelves, filled it with collectibles. He's got all sorts of cool stuff on the inside. String lights, lots of random art, lots of random posters. So that's definitely what I wanted to do for the interior, and I used a lot of screenshots from the movie, trying to get a lot of little shout outs. I rewatched the scenes in the beginning when he goes through the transport vehicle, as well as at the end when Eve brings him back to try and fix him. There's a lot of scenes inside the vehicle as well. So I tried to recreate at least some of it. You do have to keep in mind that obviously this is The Sims, and we have to make this a functional home. So in the movie, he's a robot. He doesn't need a bathroom. He doesn't need a fully functioning kitchen. But if I know that I'm going to make him into a Sim character, I'm obviously going to have to make this a fully functioning home. So some of the inside had to be changed just so that I could add those types of things, like a bathroom and a kitchen and some other things for him to do. But a lot of the iconic things that you'll remember from the movie are definitely going to be included. As far as the exterior goes, I was really excited to try this, especially after getting done with my previous build, which was Eve's terrarium. You guys might remember that I talked a lot in that video about how much I struggled with that type of a build. And I would say in general that that type of a build, very like minimalistic, was or tends to be like a struggle for me. And I'm not even really sure why, but I really enjoy builds like this a little bit more. These feel like puzzles to me, just going through all of the different items, trying to figure out what can I use in place of this, what can I use in place of that, especially because obviously we are missing a lot of the things that you might see on a vehicle like this in game. We don't have anything like that. So I really have to go through the catalog and try and find a lot of stuff that I can put in place of other objects and still have it look like what it's supposed to do when I'm completely finished with it. So there is a lot of like scrolling through the catalog, especially for the beginning portion of doing the exterior, but I'm so happy with how it came out. I really do think that it has a very close resemblance to the transport vehicle from Wall-E. I did have to use Tool on this build, which I am just slowly but surely getting into a little bit. So Tool is a mod that basically allows you to do all sorts of stuff, but in particular for this build, it allowed me to rotate an object on an axis that is not accessible in the normal game. And what's exciting about it is that even if you download this off of the gallery or when you download the eventual save file, it will still be positioned the exact way that I have done it, even though you don't have the mod. Like, let's say, for example, you don't put the mod in your game, it will still keep the object rotated or positioned exactly the way that I want it, which is so cool, and just things that you never thought were going to be available in The Sims 4, and definitely came in handy for this build because I knew that we had to do some tires. Obviously, it's a transport vehicle, and we got to have some tires around the outside of it. And we did recently get like an oversized tire object in the debug catalog from Eco Lifestyle, and it's obviously laying flat on the ground, but I needed it to be rotated the other way so that it could be leaning up against the vehicle, and that's how it's shown in a lot of the screenshots. It's not actually attached to the vehicle anymore. Obviously, they don't really move, and there's a lot of them being shown in the background. They're all kind of stuck wherever they ended up, but they still had tires at some point, so we want to make sure that we can include those. And I was excited to just like try out Tool a little bit more. I did try to use it a bit when I did the up house, and it worked here and there, but the particular item that I was trying to use the Tool mod on wasn't working for like that one item. Of course, the one item I pick that I want to use Tool on, it doesn't work. So I was excited to finally try and use the mod a little bit when we could use the mod correctly and on an item that it would work on for sure. Now, one of my patrons actually commented and said something along the lines of, I wish that we could change the exterior world a little bit so that it felt more like messy and cluttered, and maybe this like transport vehicle felt more in place with more trash around and really made it look a lot more like the movie. And that's another thing that Tool does allow you to do. It actually allows you to change the game outside of the given lot. So I am saving that for later on. I do intend to go back into the Disney save and make some changes to the worlds so that we can get like an even more immersive experience. So Wally's like major task is that he is like a trash compactor essentially. He scoops up trash and then he makes cubes and he spits them out, and then they stack the cubes up in these giant spiraling buildings, and they've gotten so tall. Like the beginning of the movie opens up with just scenes of walls and walls of these huge trash cube buildings, and they're definitely like something that I would really like to bring to the Disney save. So I was excited to see that we did get a trash cube item added from Eco Lifestyle, and I decided to use it in this particular build to build like a little garden area over to the right. I say garden very loosely because it's actually more of like a work area for Wally. He's going to be I think it's called a civil designer, and that includes using a lot of the new like technology that we got with the pack, as well as just in general his personality. I wanted to make sure that he had like access to the actual trash compactor and all that stuff. So that stuff was all going to go over there, and I didn't really include that for the video just because placing the individual cubes to make like this fence around the outside of it, it's a very tedious process, and I definitely don't think many of you would want to see me do it. But it is there. You guys will see it a little bit in the screenshots at the end of the video. And I have this idea that I could eventually take those cubes, later on, and in this area in particular, down in like Port Promise in the Wall-E sort of area of the Disney save, build something similar or reminiscent of those giant spiraling cubed towers. Now, I don't think I'll go all out to do like these giant skyscraper towers all over the place made of these cubes, just because it would be really bad for like the game. The game is not going to like if I add all sorts of crazy objects like that, but I want to use that idea for sure, and I think I can use it around here a little bit, as well as just add more trash to the area and really make it feel like something that needs a lot of help and is a work in progress. I like that Port Promise so far is either like 10 feet in the futuristic direction or 12 feet backwards and like totally dirty, messy, trashy, and needs a ton of help. That's definitely like Wall-E in both ends of the spectrum, so I'm really excited about how it's coming out so far. Moving on to the interior of the transport unit, this is where we got to do a lot of things that are more like straight reminiscent of the movie and scenes from the movie that I could try and carry over. So the first thing is what I mentioned earlier, these giant rotating shelving units that Wall-E has turned into not only his bed, that's actually where he sleeps, but he also keeps a lot of his collectibles on there. And I knew I wanted to have something that looked like it. That was a very long process of me just trying to find objects that worked and make it look as close as possible from the screenshots, using like a lot of shelving, metal, wall pieces, all sorts of stuff to try and resemble anything close. Obviously, it's not going to function. That is okay, but I still wanted to have like all of his little collectibles, and it was just a very long, again, very tedious process that I didn't think was super important to include. So instead, I did put basically every single individual item on those shelves in the back. There are 2 layers of shelving on the top and the bottom, and then you'll see like the ones in the back, and they are each completely cluttered with some kind of item in a little collection. So they don't move, and you won't be able to see a lot of them unless you like look at extreme angles, but they're there. They're all completely cluttered up, and obviously in real life it would rotate, so he'd be able to bring like his various collectibles to the front. So we did have like bowling pins with the hidden wrecks from the movie in the middle of the bowling pins, some stuff from Eco Lifestyle, the sugar skulls that I believe are a collectible from the game, and some dolls toys, children's toys, things that I had seen on the actual rotating machine from the movie that I felt like could easily be brought over. And then the rest of it was basically just about what is Wall-E as a character going to look like, and what types of things is he going to be interested in, so that I can bring some of that stuff into his home. So he's going to be definitely more of like a, not a loner sim, but he doesn't make a lot of friends, and he doesn't have a lot of friends. So this space is very much just for him and Hal, who is going to be his dog. So there didn't have to be like a lot of areas to entertain guests, and it could end up being very cluttered and a little bit overwhelming, just because I don't expect for him to have too many people over. He definitely does keep to himself, and in the movie I think that's more so because he has to. But for the lore of the Disney save, we're definitely going to keep it that he just keeps a small social circle. And one of the things, obviously, that is big about his character as well, he loves music and movies, and there's one movie in particular that he really enjoys and gets shown in the movie pretty frequently. He has this very interesting setup that is like some kind of an MP3 player, like old school iPod, that he has plugged into a very futuristic style TV that pulls out of the wall. So I decided to create something that kind of resembled that, with the little 90-degree L bracket and then the flat screen TV over the top of it, kind of giving the same idea. Obviously, we don't have like one of the rotating monitors. That would have been really cool for something like this, but you gotta make do what you have in the Sims sometimes. That's basically like what I do, and why I really enjoy builds like this, because I just have to basically look through everything and say to myself, okay, what can we use in place of this, because we don't have this item. And that's why I really enjoy builds like this over just like basic residentials. Residentials are easy. I can copy a room, no problem. but this is a challenge that I actually enjoy. So he's got his bed. His bed is tucked into the little collectibles area because he does sleep there as well. So I wanted the bed to kind of be morphed into it. It is a little bit of an awkward placement. It's kind of right in the middle of the room, but he sleeps in the shelves, and he's a cube in the movie. He's a robot cube. So he kind of tucks himself up and gets into one of the shelves. And I thought it would be cool to just do his bed like right next to it, especially considering it doesn't move. And I'm hoping as much of that area that I can block off as possible will stop Sims from picking stuff up off those shelves, because I really want that stuff to stay there. So we've got his bed tucked in there. We've got the TV on the L bracket, a little bit of a mini fridge, and then just lots and lots of random clutter. It didn't have to be anything in particular, and I wasn't really worried about, like, what am I putting on the wall? I could literally pick anything and it would be correct, because Wally just has an eye for things. He tends to take things that are interesting to him. And even in the movie, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he picks up one item that I think a lot of us would have been like, oh wow, that's like cool. It was like something shiny, or a gemstone, or a trophy, anything like really, really interesting, and he gets rid of it. And he's more interested in like the mundane things, like he likes lighters and light bulbs and string lights and just random stuff like that. So it can be anything. We can literally clutter this with whatever we want, and it won't matter. It'll look great. But at the end of the day, you do got to remember that it is a transport vehicle, so I still wanted some of those original things to remain, like the mechanics of the transport vehicle itself, with lots of like piping and those random scientist items that I have no idea what they do, most of them, but they work. Another thing that I thought would be cool is if Wally was into robotics. He's shown in the movie as repairing himself and being good at it. So I thought it would be cool if he could like scrap metal for robotics parts and use the scrap to either repair robots or make new ones, or, you know, obviously in the movie it would be him sort of repairing himself. But if we carry that idea over, he's just into robots. So I did do the robot like crafting station that I believe is from Discovery University at the very front of the vehicle, where normally I believe people would sit to actually drive it. It's been cleared out, and we have sort of like a work area in there that serves as like an office, I guess you could say. And then I did remember that we have to have a bathroom, which I did almost forget, and it would have been really bad if I had forgotten, but I didn't. And so I cleared out a little area to the side so that we could add a very small, very, very basic little bathroom. And then lastly, just cluttering it up with some more random items. I did want to add a computer in here. Even though he lives in like this old busted up vehicle, it's still supposed to be more futuristic, so we can definitely play with the technology, and I wanted to make sure that he had access to stuff like that, especially given his career and everything that I wanted to put him on. I felt like he was going to need some kind of a computer, so we didn't shy away from any of the technology in this build, and that's definitely super cool. That is going to be the end of today's speed build. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. It will be available on the gallery very, very soon. I'm getting around to uploading some of my more recent Wally builds and gallery uploads. I'm getting there. I'm so sorry. I'm usually behind on that. Apologize. If you would like to support the Disney Save on Patreon, you can do so by clicking the link in the description box down below, or the link at the end of the video. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Hit that little bell icon below to turn on post notifications so you can get updated every single time I post, and I will talk to you all in the next one.